Hey, what's going on, YouTubers? This is Zen Manga here, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Sorry for the lack in videos. I've been sick, as you could probably hear in my voice, but I wanted to make sure to get this video out on Baki Episode 2, which is labeled The Dark Arts. So in this video, I'm going to really try to get into the in-depth analysis and some of the hidden things that you probably seen in the video. And what I mean by that, there's they packed a lot into episode 2, and actually a lot of the episodes. So you might get lost if you're not really privy to martial arts or even to the past series of Grappler Baki itself. So I'm gonna really try to get into it, and if you see me look to the left, it's because I took some clip notes just to make sure that I'm covering all the topics necessary to really explain the video. Okay, so in the beginning of the video, we kind of wrap up with the conclusion of the explanation of synchronicity, and Takagawa just basically explains that these 5 prisoners are on their way to Japan, and for the purpose of known defeat. And Baki's like, known defeat. So he's just kind of like a little bit surprised by that, but at the same time, he's not really too sure how to take it yet. But then Takagawa basically explains that, these prisoners did not use weapons in order to escape. They actually had to take out some guys and a lot of people in their prison cells. And he lets them know that they are actually all combat specialists or martial artists. So in the sense of they're actually coming to Japan for Baki. And Baki's like what? They're coming for me. And he is, if not the strongest fighter on the planet, in regards to the underground tournament. So they're definitely coming for him. And, Takagawa basically explains there's going to be an all-out war coming. And then, Baki's basically like, okay, you're going a little bit too far. It's that's not what's really going to happen. But anyway, switching the scene up, then you'll see Baki going outside, and basically you see the thugs that we've seen in episode 1, and they're basically plotting to get revenge on Baki, and there's no real reason why they want revenge on him other than to just beat him up, because he's seemingly a person who's never been able to be beaten up by them, right? So they're bullies, they're thugs, and things of that nature. But anyway, they're showing off their skill sets, and they come to the conclusion that eventually they want to beat him up. Now, prior to this scene, we see Robbie Robinson, and he's a boxer. He's a supreme boxer. He's in no right a boxer that is just an average Joe boxer, right? He's a really good boxer and a world champion boxer. So we see him running through the park. He's doing his rounds, his jogging, his training, and things of that nature. And then we'll come across a gentleman with red hair. And the gentleman with red hair, he walks up to Robbie, and he kind of gives him the sense that he wants to challenge him. So Robbie Robinson is like, bro, like, chill, basically. Like, I don't want to fight you because I don't fight amateurs, like, right? I don't do street fights. I'm a professional boxer. If you want to fight me, make it up to the rank, basically, like that. So the gentleman in the red hair, he to still challenge him, and he challenges him in the sense of just like Robbie Robinson basically grabs his collar. And then you're switched to a quick scene where you see Robbie Robinson's arms or hands just bleeding out. And you're just like, what? What just happened? And we know that this is Doyle. Doyle has razor blades on his collar that just basically just like, cut him up and things of that nature. And then we see Doyle basically give him a elbow swipe, and the elbow swipe, as you see at the end of the elbow swipe, he has like a piece of metal that is installed into his actual elbow. So that quick scene, we just see Robbie Robinson just basically like bleeding out, and that was the end of that scene. So then we switch back to the thugs who are preparing themselves to go against Baki, and they basically bring him to a spot where they're gonna try to defeat him, or actually in this case try to kill him. And Baki's just basically playing around with them, and he's just like, basically they're just too weak. They're just thugs who think they're skillful, and they're not. they may be skillful in the sense of what kind of prowesses they're displaying, but Baki just basically like eradicates them. Then we switch over to the scene where we get a chance for the FBI, and they actually name out every single one of the criminals, and the criminals' names are the following. So we have Doyle, we have Sikorsky, we have Dorian, we have Speck, and we have Yanagi, right? Those are the five, and they're really good characters in the sense of how they're portrayed as the dark martial artists, in the sense of they're kind of like the yang to the yin, and everything is going to come to light, which Takagawa said about like the war, the coming war, but it's more a war about like just martial arts and who's going to know defeat, and who's going to lay defeat onto these prisoners, right? So then as we switch back to the scene with Baki and the thugs, one of the thugs, he has a gun, right? And with the gun, he's kind of like pressing the matter and taunting Baki as if he's going to shoot him. But then Baki is talking to him, but he's actually talking to the person who is behind him with a really tall silhouette. And the tall silhouette that we come to find out is actually Speck. Now, Speck he's just like a monstrous type of character in the sense of they never really let us know his martial arts style. I think they don't. I think it's just more about like power and just like power, and that's about it. There's more to him later on in the series, but I won't get into that right now until we get to that actual episode. But basically, the thug turns around, takes the gun, and no, Speck takes the gun from the actual thug, and he takes it and he just shoots it through his jaw about like several times, right? And he does this to prove, I don't think he's actually even proven a point. Shouldn't even have used the word. He just did it just to do it, right? For the sake of doing it. And because it just seemed like he was in pure joy while doing it. And the thug basically runs away, and then he looks at Baki. Speck looks at Baki. And he introduces himself basically. He's like, I'm letting you know, just want to let you know that you're someone who's been posed as the strongest person, and I want to know defeat from you, this 17-year-old boy, right? Hanma Baki. And he grabs to shake his hand, and Speck kicks the hell out of him really far, and he kind of sucker kicks him, right? And he starts wailing on Baki. He starts wailing on him until eventually the cops come around. And Speck lets them put handcuffs on them and things of that nature, which absolutely is not binding him at all, because later on he decides to just, when the FBI or the cops are talking to Baki, he breaks them. He just like unlatches them really quickly, and then he walks over to Baki and he's like, this is just an introduction. I hope that next time X, Y, and Z happens, da-da-da-da-da. So he says, let's shake hands for real this time. So he goes to shake his hand, and then he kicks the hell out of him again. It's really cool to see. And then he starts wailing on him. And then he walks away, right? And then Baki just kind of thinks to himself, he's just like that man. And then we cut to a scene of one of the coolest introductions that I've ever seen for a character. It cuts to, it's a foreshadowing for a personality foreshadowing for Hanma Yujiro, which is Baki's dad. Now, Baki's dad is the strongest creature on the planet, and his introduction is second to none, because he's at his hotel. In his hotel, he's doing a split, and he's just watching the news and things like that while smoking a cigar. And when he's done with the cigar, he kind of like closes his split mid-air, and then they show him with like the most epic pose I've ever seen, and he does a front flip type of axe kick going down to the cigarette that's slowly falling down to like knock it apart, and it just kind of like disperses all over the place. And then he's just basically like, the FBI will never figure out why these prisoners are actually here. So I know, and we're about halfway through the episode. So this episode, it's a lot, and this is just episode 2. So Now we switch back to Yanagi, and Yanagi is having tea with Shibugawa, and Shibigawa, if I'm pronouncing his name right, he's a Aki master or a Aikido master, right? And Aikido, in the sense outside of the anime, Aikido was basically created by Morihei Yashiba, and Aikido uses the person's momentum against them, or force of energy against them, right? So in the sense of throws, joint locks, things of that nature. It's really amazing martial arts itself. A lot of people have critiques about it, and the reason why they have critiques about it is because oftentimes they'll see videos of it and it's almost as if the person is just waving them off and someone's just like falling to the floor, right? So whether or not your views on Aikido or are I see the critiques and I see where people are coming from, but for me, from my standpoint, I'm just looking at the philosophy and the understanding of momentum against momentum, and it's just a really cool philosophy when it comes to like martial arts integration. But anyway, Shibigawa is basically just having tea with Yanagi, and they're reminiscent on old times in the sense of Yanagi has defeated him before, and Yanagi is actually the one who took out his eye. I think it's his left eye, right? I think, yeah, he took out his eye. So we came up with that revelation. We weren't introduced to that before in the previous Grappler Baki anime until now, right? Or if you read the manga. So it's really cool to see. So basically, Shibigawa is just basically like, you want to fight, and then Yanagi's like, you martial artist, because he's more of a combat specialist. He doesn't really consider himself, I don't think any of them consider themselves like martial artists in the traditional sense, because he says to him, he said, if you wanted to face off against me, you don't wait, you just start, basically. So Yanagi picks up the tea bowl, which is like relatively super hot, and he throws it at him. And then Shibugawa is just like, is he really throwing this at me? So he tries to catch it, which he does. And then before you know it, Shibugawa looks up and he sees that there's like not a knife, I just want to say something that's really pointy right in his face. And Yanagi was ready to, like, he said, that's your third loss. He said, I could have really like messed you up right now. Your second or third loss, I could have messed you up right here. Which really lets you know how the prisoners are. They're not looking for a traditional one-on-one match with rules. They're looking for no holds barred, no rules, no anything. You start when you start, and that's it, which is really the essence of true fighting. Which is kind of like wrapping up the episode where we see Orochi Kasumi. And Orochi Kasumi, he's a phenomenal martial artist in the sense that he practices karate. And karate in this, the Shinshinkai. And I had to remember that because I know that the Shinshinkai karate is based off of Kyokushin karate, which was created in real life by Masayama. And Kasumi is basically the heir to the Shinshinkai karate, which was created by Orochi Doppo. Now, we haven't seen Orochi Doppo, but he's a phenomenal character, one of my favorite characters in the series. But I really love Katsumi because his development in the series is really grand. I can't get too much because I don't want to spoil it yet. I really want to get into the analysis of how his character has changed throughout this season, and also hopefully into the next one when they get into it. But he's facing against Retsukayo, and Retsukayo is a practitioner of Chinese Kempo or Kung Fu, right? So in the previous tournament, in the Underground tournament, which was in the Grapple Baki series, now Retsukayo actually defeated Katsumi. And it's weird because I'm not too sure if it was a translation itself, but they made it seem like Retsukayo was a bad person, like just like borderline evil or something like that. But he's really not. He's a really cool guy. He's a really cool guy. But anyway, Kasumi because of his loss, he invited Red Kaido to the Shinshinkai headquarters or dojo for the purpose of actually enlightening karate so that it could evolve even further, which makes total sense, right? That you're exposed to something new so that you could utilize it to educate yourself and to grow your own style even more, right? Which they do. And the conclusion of this episode is you see them sparring with each other and practicing their techniques around other members of the Shinshinkai. And we see Dorian, who's humongous, right? He reminds me of Hulk Hogan, but just in the martial arts sense. And he's like walking in kind of like the dojo, kind of like back in the day, way back in the day, they used to have the Jojo Breakers. I think that's what it's called. But just people who would challenge dojos. And he's walking in basically. And it's just a really cool scene because he's just like a humongous Westerner. So he is from the United States. And there's more to him like throughout the series. He's one of the more interesting characters throughout from the prisoners themselves. So anyway, that episode was a lot. I really wanted to get that analysis out there. Overall, it was a really good episode. Again, I am biased when it comes to Baki, but I could see how someone could watch this episode or even episode number 1 and 2 and be totally lost because they haven't seen the prior episodes before. So I hope that this video could help you understand a little bit when it comes to Baki the series. I'm gonna make episode 3. I'm not making, like, as you can see, I'm not making episodes 1 through 3 because there's so much in the episode that it's hard to really just shuffle through it. So anyway, I'm ranting now. Let me know what you think about this video. Let me know what you're excited to find out about Baki. I've read the manga, so I know a lot about it, but each time I'm making a video, I'm watching the episode one more time and then taking little notes on my little paper right here so that I'm making sure not to forget certain things. So anyway, this is Zen Manga. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Drop me a like, comment, subscribe, and take care. Peace.